Hello. Okay, let me just type the topic. Okay, so we're live. Sorry, I'm just typing the topic. This is so longer. Alright, good evening. Just gonna wait a couple of minutes. Trying to pin, I don't even know how to pin. Good evening. Good evening. I'm trying to type. I'm really not good at this. I'm trying to type the topic and save it. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Mm-hmm. Just gonna wait a couple of maybe just 1 minute and see who gets connected, and then we'll start. So hi. Good evening, Edwidge. Good evening, Miraesa. Good evening, ladies. Hello, Edwidge. Bye. Bye. Hello, hi, sorry. Hello, ladies. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us. While you're waiting, please, feel free to share the live with your friends. Feel free to ask questions as well while you're watching the live. And today's topic is a bit sensitive, so if you're obviously a sensitive person, just prepare your tissues, because we're going to go a bit deep into domestic abuse. As we all know, October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I thought it would be good for us to discuss, the question that many people have on their minds: why do victims stay? So that's something that I've heard myself as a domestic violence survivor. I've been asked that question so many times. And then people do come and ask, there's always been that question around anyway. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. Like I said, we are talking about why do victims stay? And in the midst of that questions, there will be many questions. So this evening, my guest, obviously we've now started. This evening, my guest is Elo Adassa.
Hi, good evening.
And so I'm going to obviously allow her to introduce herself in a few words. Good evening.
Good evening.
So please introduce yourself in a few words.
So I'm Elo Adassa. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I've known this lady for a long time. And yes, I've been through different abuse in my life. I'm not usually open about it. I'm not usually talk publicly about it. So today will be the first time that I go deeply in certain aspects of abuse. So it's a bit emotional for me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for just obviously accepting to come and share on this platform. And I know it's never easy to share about domestic abuse, so I'm grateful that you accepted to come. Like I said, this is a sensitive topic, and I do appreciate that some of you may not know what domestic violence is, may not know what domestic abuse is, but we will try as best as we can. And I like to say, when I present a topic, I like to always make a point that we're not professionals. We're only talking from our own experiences. So good evening, Place Royaume. Good evening, Yaloris. Good evening, ladies. Today's topic is, why do victims of domestic abuse stay? And again, my guest today is Elo Adassa. So my first question to you is, have you ever been a victim of domestic abuse or witnessed domestic abuse?
Yes, I've witnessed domestic abuse as a child, and I've been a victim of domestic abuse as a child, and also in a relationship myself when I was older.
Okay. Can I ask you, if that's not too intrusive, can you tell us a bit first about your childhood? What domestic abuse looked like in your childhood?
So I grew up in a household with a father that was very violent and strict, and I will witness him being violent towards my mom, but also towards myself. Yes, and then later on in life, when I was older, I was in a relationship, but at the time I didn't know it was abuse because I guess I was in denial because I've always told myself that I will never allow a man to hurt me or abuse me. So to me, it couldn't happen to me. So yeah, for me, it wasn't abuse.
I think we talked about this before, that, you know, many, you know, I would say many people with an African background have this, you know, this kind of views of relationship because of what they've been through in their childhood, and when they grow up and go through kind of the same cycle, they tend to not believe that it's domestic abuse because they've obviously grew up knowing that, you know, knowing that this is how my parents were and this is kind of normal, quote unquote, so in a relationship. So was it the same for you? Did you kind of, when you experienced domestic abuse as an adult, did you kind of reflect back on what you saw with your mom and dad, and for that, oh, this is kind of normal, quote unquote?
Not at all, because the way my father was, I knew it wasn't normal. It was things that you will see in those very old movies. First of all, my father was way older than my mother, and he grew up in an era in the 30s, 40s, so violence, and he's a white man, so he wasn't even in an African background, but violence at the time was normal. Like even at school, you could be beaten up by your teachers and everything, and the type of punishment towards children was rougher than what we will experience now. Now when you want to punish a child, maybe you will deprive them from their phone, TV, but my father will be like, if you're not eating your tomato or something, they can put you in a dark room, you know, or until you eat it, you can't move from the table. If you vomit it, then you will have to eat it again. They very, very weird type of abuse. So I knew it wasn't normal when I experienced that. So because of what I saw my father do and be, I always told myself I will never allow a man to hurt me. I will never allow a man to put me down and treat me down. So when it happened to me that I always find an excuse to say to myself, oh, this is not abuse, he's not abusing me, we are fighting, or you know, or maybe it's because I did something, it's not that he's abusing me.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, so you do find I want to ask you a question, and you're free to answer or not, but what would you say was the worst punishment you got as a child?
I will say, you know, because it's something that up to today really, really touched me, if I can say so. The first one that I mentioned, like when you're not eating your food, and you know you can't eat it, or you're vomiting it, and then you have to eat it back. For me, this is not normal. And another type of abuse, for example, one time I had an accident, and I killed my cat by accident. I stepped on my cat by accident. And then when it was reported to my father, instead of comforting me, I was sent to my bedroom with no food. Sometimes I could be woken up in the middle of the night just because there would be few toys at midnight, and be beaten up just because there will be few toys on the floor. And one more thing that really, really, how can I say, like stayed with me, traumatized me, is that my father, we were in Africa, and my father was traveling a lot for his work and everything, and he bought this type of a whip. Yeah, a whip, but in camel skin. And that was supposed to be for the dogs, but that's the type of whip that will be used on me. So every time it will be used on me by my father, or sometimes even by my mother, I will have cracks on my body. Yeah. So.
Okay, this is very sensitive, I must admit, because this, you know, this kind of abuse, again, you know, we are going back to childhood and talking about what Elo Adassa's experienced, you know, in a past relationship. But what I would like you all to take back and to actually reflect on is that domestic abuse has a devastating impact on children. At times, she shared obviously her story that she was abused and a mother was abused, but sometimes the children, you know, someone may say that, oh, but the child, I'm not putting my hands on the child is fine, you know, but children, even though children are not physically abused, the fact that they are witnessing one of their parents being abused, sometimes they're not witnessing it, but they're hearing it. You know, children are not, you know, what would you say? Children are not silly. They're able to hear from one room to the other. They hear the shouting, they hear the commotion, and this is also a form of abuse to them, though it's not directly, but they are impacted indirectly. And 1 in 7 children and young people under the age of 18 will have lived with domestic violence at some point of their life. 1 in 7, which is quite a lot. And when we say domestic abuse, again, I like to repeat it, it's not just physical, but they can also witness emotional abuse, financial abuse. They can witness you know, psychological abuse. And sometimes you would have, you know, the abuser you know, making the children take part in the abuse,
yes.
in you know, controlling the other parent, you know, cussing the other parent, and just encouraging the children to do that. And that is also a form of abuse. So let's just bear that in mind. So now going to your adulthood and what you've experienced as, you know, domestic abuse, violence. And this is the topic for today. Why do victims stay? Why did you stay? Or, you know, I know the story, so I'm saying, why did you stay? But if we can take it back, if that's okay, when did it start, and why did you stay?
So it started as fights, you know. Okay. So we will fight physically, both of us fighting, but even that is not normal. You understand? And what I now realize is not because you are fighting that the person has now the right to beat you up or something because you are fighting. So that's one thing. So it started, you want to know like details?
I don't know. If you feel like you
when
want to share
it started
details.
as arguments and fights, I didn't realize it for me wasn't abuse because both of us were fighting. But when I realized that it wasn't normal, it was on my 30th birthday, and we went out somewhere, and it was in public. We went out somewhere, and now that day the person decided to tell me something that they were hiding from me all this time. And I said, but it's my birthday. Why are you telling me that? So, but I wasn't fighting with that person. I wasn't insulting them. But you see, the person became angry and turned things around as if now it was my fault. And what really shocked me, they banged the table on the floor, and we were in a public place, in a restaurant, and then started to shout through things. And me, I followed the person. If I was not as in love, or you know, maybe stupid, I wasn't stupid, but you know, sometimes you're naive. I would have just gone home, but I followed the person, and then the more I was following them, the more they were abusing me, breaking things, insulting me, throwing things and all that. And that's why I realized that this is not normal. But prior to that, I didn't really realize. And why did I stay? Yes, I stayed because I loved the person. I stayed because I had the faith, I had the hope that they will change. And I really believe that was the person. I was never in love. That was the first person I loved. So to me, it was like, you know, I'm already far away with this person. I really believe that that's the person I'm meant to be. So I just have faith that they will change. I couldn't believe that. You know, I thought it was a phase.
Yeah, okay. So Miraesa is asking, where do you come from? Please tell us.
I'm from France. I'm mixed. So my father is French and my mother is from Togo and Ghana.
And where did you live?
Are they asking?
No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Welcome to those who have just joined us. Today we're asking the question: why do victims stay? You know, why do victims of domestic abuse stay? Thank you so much for sharing that. So you stayed after the first time you stayed, and obviously I'm guessing this carried on. You stayed because you said you know, you thought that obviously you've gone far with this person and you have hope that the person will change. Can you think about other reasons why do victims stay? And you who are watching us, if you want to drop in the chat some of the reason why victims stay. Please feel free, and I will read them as we go along. So why a couple of reasons why victims stay.
So first of all, because they don't think it's abuse, I want to just add something.
Sure.
I was not living with the person.
Okay.
So to me, before domestic violence is when you live in the same home.
Okay.
You know, so to me, the fact that we're not living together, even though we're spending a lot of time together, for me, this cannot be domestic violence.
Okay.
So that's one reason why people will stay, because they don't realize they're in an abusive relationship. Second of all, they stay most of the time because they're in love and they have the hope that the person will change, and they're thinking that if they leave, maybe in the meantime the person will change and they will miss out on them changing.
Yeah.
So that's that. Another one that I realized after myself witnessing over people being abused is that some of them, they think that some of them, they don't have money. It's because they don't have anything else. The person is providing, the person is paying everything. Basically, if you leave, you have nothing. You're in the street. Some of them, they control your money. Some of them also, they make you think that if you leave, and that's also one reason I thought that was it for me, because after a while I thought that I cannot get anyone else,
better,
I cannot get anyone better, so you have no more confidence and you think that's the only type of person you can get. And if you leave, you'll be alone all your life and nobody else will love you.
And obviously we come to learn that it's absolutely wrong, isn't it? Edwidge says one of the reasons is fear. Definitely fear. There's obviously fear encapsulates quite a lot of things, and I think you mentioned it, that when the person is dependent on, when the victim is dependent on the abuser, there's fear that obviously you won't be able to stand on your own 2 feet when you leave the relationship. Plus, do you mind putting the topic, and I can pin it, because I didn't know how to pin it. Sorry, I'm still a novice at this. So if you type it, and then I can pin it from your comment, hopefully, if I manage to do that. Thank you. So thank you for sharing the reasons. Obviously, I've got a list of reasons here, and you've obviously mentioned quite a few of them, and I'll go through what I have here. Fear of harm if they leave. A lot of victims are actually threatened. They say, the abuser will say, if you leave me, I'll kill you. If you leave me, I'll kill the children. If you leave me, I even kill myself. Some abusers go as far as even threatening the victim to kill themselves. And obviously the victim doesn't want to carry that weight on their shoulders, to know that because of me, someone, ended their lives. Obviously we talked about love. The victim loves their partner, and believes that they can change, so they will stay. They will stay in the hope that the person will change. And like you said, there's a fear also of missing out. I think when when you think that, oh, I've gone through so many years of abuse, and now I'm gonna leave this person, and the person now changes, and then they go into a happy relationship when I could have been actually there and benefit from the change. That this person it's psychological, really, but some victims will use that. Yes, Mira, yes, fear and love, definitely. Let me try and pin. Oh, the title is Why Do Victims Stay? That is the title for this evening. Some people, obviously those who are married, have a strong belief in marriage, so therefore they know that obviously when they said their vows, for better, for worse, their understanding is that the worst, domestic violence is the worst, and they have signed up for the worst, and therefore they will, it's the kind of thing that I can't divorce because I've signed for better, for worse, not knowing that obviously God still condones domestic abuse. Okay, you tapped into that as well, thinking that that the abuse is their fault. So a lot of the domestic abuse starts first of all by emotional and psychological abuse, and the person the abuser has a way of making the victim think that it's your fault. So therefore you stay in the relationship because your understanding is that it's my fault anyway. Let me try and change myself. Let me try and better myself. Let me try and make myself, let me try and make myself the best that I can for this person. But then you come to realize, and I've been there, you come to realize that it's never enough. no matter how much you change, the person tells you, I like girls with blonde hair, you put blonde hair. I like girls wearing miniskirts, you do. So you do everything to please the person, and it's never enough. Therefore, you end up thinking that it's me, there's a problem with me, and this guy or this woman is actually putting up with me, and it's all my fault. Some people stay for children, and I think we've had this, I had this discussion before, that it is better to be a single parent and raising your children the right way than raising children with more and more trauma, which will affect and impact their adulthood. Lack of self-esteem, lack of self-confidence, you did say that as well. And, you know, when I'm saying that, I want to tap into what you shared about your childhood. Do you believe that what you've experienced in your childhood impacted then your self-confidence and self-esteem as an adult?
Yes, and also, you know, there's a reason why people cannot live. If you're a child and you cannot leave your household, some do, but it's very difficult, you know. And I do, yes, it did impact my life, because first of all, because I was abused, I started to be abusive, for example, towards my younger sisters and things like this. So it does affect you mentally, psychologically, you know, and I think without knowing it and consciously, you attract, later in life, you will attract another abuser as well, even if you think you will not. And another thing you mentioned regarding staying for the children, my mom told us that many times, that she stayed with her father because she didn't want us to say, oh, where's our father, and everything. So she stayed because of us, and also she didn't want to have different children with different men. So even though she saw that the man was abusive, when she had one child, she decided to stay and had all her children with the person, because she didn't want to have children with different dad, or where's my dad, and then blaming her. So she said that she made the sacrifice to stay for the children.
I like that word. She sacrificed. Okay. So you said she sacrificed. With your now understanding of this, and I know the answer, but I'm still gonna ask it. Do you think that this sacrifice was worth it?
No, eventually she left us after a while. The only thing that I can say that is good is that at least, especially me being the eldest of my mother, I know my dad, I knew him, and I saw him, and I saw what he's capable of, even though it was hard. But if maybe she would have left all this time, I would have blamed her, oh, I don't have a dad, and I would have, it might create a perfect image in my head of a man that is wonderful, when it wasn't, you understand? So it's one side is good, what you understand is half, because at least I know where I'm coming from, I know what I'm capable of, I know where my family is coming from, and the root of it, which was also my dad. And now I can heal better, and I can get better myself, because I know, you know, because when you come from an abuser, that spirit of abuse will be in you as well, and you can recognize some trait of the character amongst all of you. I can see the trait of my father within myself and within all of my siblings, from time to time, you know. And now, because I know it's coming from him, even though it might come from someone else, and maybe he might have been abused himself, but then I know the roots, so it's better now for me to work on myself, and then I can recognize, now that I've been through a relationship like that, I can recognize it from far away. I can see the red flags.
Yes, red flags. Thank you so much. There is fear of isolation. Usually when, you know, especially for women who have been brought to, you know, to Europe or to different continents by their husbands, and they are obviously at the care of their husband until they have obviously the indefinite stay. They have no family. So if I take an example, someone from you know, Africa being, you know, brought to Europe, and she has no family in Europe, and her only family is her husband, but the husband is abusive, she will stay in that relationship because she's now fearful of, you know, she doesn't know. So I've heard a story where the woman was actually not even allowed out. So she didn't know, if I leave this person, I know no one. I'm not allowed to talk to the neighbors. I'm just at home doing, chores at home. I don't know the language. I don't know, all of that. So the person didn't want to leave because she knew that outside, she thought that outside she wouldn't be able to cope with the life that there is, and all of that. So there is a fear of isolation, and obviously pressure. The last one I want to mention is pressure from the community. We've been talking enough about that pressure from the community. We say this quite a lot. There is a saying in Lingala that we say "kanga motema," and this is something that says, basically, word for word translation is close your heart, or something like that. Just handle handle it. You can handle it, so you have to handle it. And this is why some people choose to stay, because the community has made it in a way where if you leave your home, you are basically an outcast. You are literally an outcast. If you divorce, you are an outcast. Your family shuns you. Everyone around you look at you like you're damaged good, and that's it. So when you think about all that growing up, and this is what you've been hearing in your community, when you now are faced with such situation, you will think, okay, I've seen my auntie being cussed and all that by my parents, by the neighbors, all that. I don't want it to be my story. Yes. So I have to stay there and live with that, live with my abuser, and just stay there. So that's those are the reasons why one would stay. I will post it, obviously, once I save this live. I will post all the reasons at the bottom. This is a question a bit tricky, but is it wrong for the victim to believe that the abuser would change? And do you think that the abuser can change?
It's not wrong to believe it, because we are all, especially women, and when we're in love, we are hopeful for the best, and especially as a Christian, because when I was going through that relationship, I was a Christian, I was a believer, so there's always a hope. We're always hopeful for the better. Well, and me, I'm the type of person, I'm always thinking positively that there will be a way. Even if I'm down, even if there's hell, there will always going to be a way. So you always think that it's going to get better, it's going to be okay, something will change, So I don't think it's wrong, but you need to really analyze the situation, analyze the person, and then see if the person will really change, not just being in illusion, And people do change. There are some people, but they have to want it, and they have to realize. If someone start blaming you for their mistakes, saying that it's because of something you did or you said, or of your behavior, character, personality, that they are angry, that they are abusing you because it's you that pushed the button, so they're not ready to change. But if someone says, like I said, which happened to me because of the abuse I went through as a child, I was quite angry, I was quite violent, and very young, at a very young age, at 16, I realized that I had too much anger in me, and that if I didn't change, I will abuse people and I will hurt them, and even myself. Because you also can abuse your own self and hurt your own self. So some people can change, but they will say, I know I have a problem and I want to change. And if they really love you and they want to change, they will even take maybe a pause. Maybe, like people go on rehab and everything and do the work, go to
anger
management. Because
management.
That guy, I asked him, can you go to anger management? Even other people told him to go, and he said no, if he's not with me, he doesn't need to go to anger management. So he was blaming everything on me.
Okay. So that's a right answer, really. So the abuser obviously needs to realize that they have a problem. No matter how many times the victim will say, you're hurting me, you're doing this to me, you're doing that to me, if the abuser doesn't realize that they're actually hurting you, they will not desire to change. Because for an abuser, the victim is actually their trigger. That's what they will try to put it. They will put the fault on you. It's because of you. It's you. If I'm with someone else, I'm not like this.
Yes.
But that's not true. The thing is, that's not true. And
and they will turn things around and appear as they being the victim.
Yes.
And I think that even if you've been abused, you know, it's not a reason to abuse others. It's not an excuse to say that, like, I could say, oh, it's because I've been abused that I was abusing, for example, my younger sibling or was being violent. It's not an excuse. You need to take your responsibility. Yes, it's not your fault that you were abused, but it's not because you were abused that now it gives you the right to go and abuse other people. You need to work on yourself to heal, to be restored, to change basically, and be healed from the abuse so that you don't abuse other people.
Yes, that's very true. And for those who decide obviously to leave, because we've seen that, you know, some victims do go back to their abusers, and that's a fact. You know, it takes time to build that courage. It takes time to build that resilience. It takes time to build yourself up to the point where you leave and never come back. You leave and never look back. So I would say, obviously, if you're watching and you've been abused and you've gone back to that person, don't blame yourself, but try to find the right support to build that strength that will allow you to one day pick your stuff up and go. That leads to my next question. How important do you think a support system is when someone wants to leave a toxic relationship?
It is really important, because when you're alone, you don't really know what to do, and it takes longer to really get back on your feet. So it is important to have a support system. And sometimes the support system you wish to have is not necessarily the one that you can have or need. You will think that it should be your close friends or family members, or maybe if you're part of a church, pastor and all that, but there are some of, maybe they're not the one. They can, but maybe they would not be the one. In my situation, they were not really the one, but then you can find another support. There are a lot of how do you say, like, organizations, you know, that can help you. Shelters, there's a lot of places where you can find the right help, and psychological help as well is really, really important.
Why is psychological help important? That I like. What is it?
So therapy is really important, because just living and just moving on won't really help, because deep down you are very affected, and you're just trying to act as if, you know, it's fine, I'm fine, it's in the past, but all this will affect you. It's like an accident. You'll always feel the abuse a way or another. So you need to go deep, talk about it, and try to find ways to heal totally from it. So yes, therapy, psychological help, and also spiritual help as a Christian.
Yes.
But just spiritual help and, oh, it's okay, just pray, is not enough. Because it's like a disease. It's like you were ill, you had a cancer. You know, you're not just praying. When you have someone say you have cancer, you're diagnosed with a disease or even a flu, you're not just sitting here praying for the flu to go. You know, you're doing something. You're taking medication. You're covering yourself a certain way. You're doing something so that you're bringing the physical to the spiritual. You can't just do one without the other.
Okay.
So it's the same.
So it's pray and act. So it still has to be, you know, as Christians, because we're Christian women. So you would pray, you know, as you leave that, you know, toxic relationship, as you leave that abusive relationship, you will pray for healing, and then you will also seek, you know, counseling, therapy, which is something I've done, and I can say that you're 100% right. We can't just be like, oh yeah, I'm praying. There's a reason why there are therapists out there. There's a reason why, you know, God has allowed people out there to gain the knowledge of the mind and all that, is because they are needed, and we have to make use of them as well as Christians. So I will encourage anyone out there who, you know, has obviously gone through abuse and is thinking, okay, I'm praying, but I'm still not feeling that release. I'm still quite traumatized. I still, you know, my mind takes me back to the abuse. My mind takes me back to, you know, my childhood. Go seek, you know, psychological support, because that is a support that you will need and if you have children, that is a psychological support that your children will need as well, which in African communities we don't do that work of of healing to the depth of the pain that we felt. Is just to move on. And I'm saying African community because I'm we are of an African background, so I don't know the other communities what they do. So I'm not saying that this only happens in the African community, so don't get me wrong, but I'd like to talk about the things that I know. So we don't do that work. When we come out of an abusive relationship, we just try to like Elodie said, we just move on. Like, okay, the relationship is finished, I've divorced, blah, I just move on. But moving on and having that baggage on the inside will just spoil the next relationship, and it will spoil the children as well. If children have witnessed that, it will spoil the children. And that's where we have to be big enough to not feel ashamed of what we've been through, but to seek the right help so that we heal, the children will heal, the next generations will heal. Because like you said, your dad was abusive, but who knows where the abuse started. So there has to be we have to be conscious in a way that I do not want my children to go through what I've been through, even children who are born physically there or children who are coming next. We have to do that work for them. If you're not doing it for yourself, think about the fact that what you've been through could actually happen and impact the next generations. That's it. Break the cycle. That's it. Simple. Thank you very much. So Elo Adassa is a singer. Many would have seen that I've posted quite a few of her a few videos, same track, few videos, but her single has come out. But I wanna know, and I'm interested to know, has singing been a big part in your journey of healing?
Yes, definitely, because as a child I was singing naturally. I wasn't singing to become a singer or whatever, but it was singing, writing songs, writing stories, writing poems was a therapy to me, was a way of expressing myself. There was a lot of things I couldn't really express with my words. So yeah, music was always something to heal myself. And when I became an adult and I went through that relationship, I wrote quite a few songs while being in this relationship. And yeah, it really helped me. And also it's like, once you've written the songs or poem or whatever you wrote, when you look back at it, it's like, it's no longer you that wrote it. It's like you're reading from somebody else writing. So it's helping you. It's like it allows you to reflect on what has happened, and it gives you strength. For me, it is really something that strengthened me and encouraged me deep within.
That's really good. So why do victims stay? That is the topic of this evening. One of the question I have, and that's not something I've scripted, but what made you leave? Like, what made you leave that relationship?
So first of all, the person left me. So it's not like I left myself. Even though I realized that it wasn't good for me, I was still hoping to get back with that person. That's how toxic it was. It's only a few years later, even though we were no longer together, because it took me years to recover and to really get back my confidence and know that I had value, and not just because of what happened, that allowing what happened like to define who I was as a woman, but to really get back on my feet and be strong and healed emotionally, because I was totally broken. Because I don't know if you've realized, when you grew up in an abusive household and you vow to yourself that I will never allow a man to hurt me, I will never allow anyone to abuse me, and then that happens to you, it's like your whole world has fallen apart. And then if you're not careful, you will go back to the same pattern, finding other men that will abuse you a way or another. Maybe not the same way, but so that's what happened to me. I started going out with guys, but they were still using me a certain way and abusing me a certain way without me really realizing. So it took me years, to really become free, to really be happy again and know my worth, And yeah, so I realized that, you know, for me, it wasn't leaving the person, but it was leaving the idea of the person, and realizing that I wasn't what that person was saying that I was.
Okay.
You know, and that it's not that I didn't deserve them. They didn't deserve me.
Amen.
I was way better than what they told me I was. You know, so
yes, that is really good. That is really, really good. So we're nearly at the end of the you know, our little chat here. I'm just gonna go and look at the questions. There's 2 questions there. Okay, oh, nice questions. Thank you very much, beautiful Kaz, if you're still here. Had your parents apologized to you for the abuse?
No, what you have to know, I don't know if you've been abused yourself, but most abusers, they don't recognize, they don't realize that they have abused you. And when you try to talk to them about that, they will deny it. And that's what was with my father, you know. And until he passed away, he never really, he never apologized to us. To him, he never abused us. To him, it was us that were doing wrong things, that were doing this, that were doing that. Even before he died, I didn't know he would die. After 10 years of not speaking to him, I called him, you know, and he didn't even recognize me. It took few minutes before he realized I was his daughter. And then instead of, you know, how are you, you know, what's happening, he started talking about things from the past. Or you did this, you did that, when he was an abuser. So what I decided to do is to release him, to forgive him, you know, and allow God to judge him. And that was it. Because if you're expecting someone to apologize to you, you can wait all your life for it.
You will wait.
Yeah, and you have to forgive. And I've realized there are layers of forgiveness, because sometimes we think we're forgiven, but then something else will happen and it will hurt you, and you will like, oh, that person, you know. And that's happening to me all the time. So I'm always releasing those people that abuse me, because I can see that it's still sometimes impacting me or traumatizing me a way or another.
That's okay. That's forgiveness is a must. Forgiveness is a must to move on. And at times you will not get the apologies that you think you deserve, and you rightfully deserve. I'm not going to say you think you deserve, because you rightfully deserve that apology, but at times you don't get it, and you have to be okay with that. And you just have to not move on in a way that, oh yeah, whatever, but move on and have peace. That, you know what, I didn't get the apology, but I'm worth more than that. Therefore, I will not, you know, lower myself to their level. I'm just going to forgive them. And like you said, I really like this, is that let God be God and let God judge them. Because at the end of the day, when you're an abuser and you continuously abuse people, because when an abuser leaves a relationship, he doesn't go on and be, you know, this fantastic person. And sometimes they go on and be like that. But because that root of abuse is still within their lives, it may take time to show in the next relationship, but it will show. And I know that it may take time. You may see them, they're happy for years and years, but they will continue. They will, at some point, because they haven't dealt with the root of their issue, it will come up. And sometimes it will come up in the most ridiculous ways at times. Let me read this comment. Plus Royaume, thank you so much. If you have children, how do they relate to your family, and do you have a good relationship with your siblings? That's really good.
Oh, she's asking.
Yes, she's asking. Oh, you're the guest.
So no, I do not have children yet. Hopefully, I will have some days. And do you have a good relationship? Yes, now I have good relationship with my close siblings, because my father had different children. And the fact that he was abusive towards us did, how can I say, allow us to get closer, like with all the different siblings, with different moms, you know. So, but now I can say that it took me time to have a good relationship with my younger sisters, because I was abused and I was abusing them in a way, but didn't really realize it, because I was still a child at the time. But it did really affect our relationship. And even as adults, they will always bring that back. Oh, but this is not normal, the way you beat us up. It's not normal what you were doing. So it took us time and we had a lot of misunderstanding, argument, but today I can say that we are in a better place. And even when we don't agree, we always try to explain each other. I did ask my sisters for forgiveness. I did say sorry of the way I acted towards them, and also they did say sorry towards me, because you know, when you abuse, sometimes you can also become wicked towards the person that abused you, even when they come and say sorry. So now, yes, we have a better relationship, and I thank God for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's important, and I think I will try and do a topic on this, you know, how, you know, domestic abuse in children, because we often talk about the woman and, you know, and the man being abused, but we don't talk about the children. And there is a trauma that children carry, and that trauma actually creates quite a lot in children as they grow, as they get older. They struggle with identity, they struggle with self-esteem, they struggle with anxiety, with depression. You know, so we have some children who still wet the bed until a very, you know, 15, 16, 18, they still wet the bed, but that's a root of anxiety. It's not something that they choose to do. You know, they have difficulty sleeping, you know, they have nightmares, they have flashbacks, they experience so many symptoms that we fail to realize, and we fail them by not realizing this. And at times, you know, you, as a parent who's been, you know, a victim, you try to, you know, you try to shun even your children for being a certain way, but you don't realize that actually as much as I have been affected by that relationship, they have been affected, and therefore they will be acting up. They will be acting up because that's their way of, they don't have the words to express how they are feeling. A child will never come to their parents and say, I'm feeling anxious.
No.
They don't know what the word anxious mean. Therefore, they will act out of anxiety. And it's for the adult to now recognize that my child is actually anxious. My child is having flashback. Your child wants to sleep in your bed every night. Don't go and shout at the child, oh, you're 10 years old, you're this, you're that. Why would you want? No, speak to your child. What's happening? Why do you feel, oh no, I'm scared, I've got nightmares? What are the nightmares? So you get to talk with the child as well. And you know, again, this is something that we don't do naturally, but we need to start doing, because if we don't do that, we are now allowing them to grow as adults who will then be destructive towards others
and become abusive
as well in their own relationships. Because someone who's abusive, first of all, obviously there is a root from their childhood, there is a root somewhere, somehow, and plus Wayom also said there's generational curse in that family as well, because if you look back, oh, the mother was abused, the grandma was abused, the great grandma was abused, and you look in their lineage, every woman have been abused. And this is where we say no, and we say stop. I say for myself, it ends with me. And then my daughter will not go through this. My son will not go through this. If I have children after that, they will not go through this, because I'm doing the work right now, and it's a hard work. I can't lie to you. It's a hard work, but then at the same time, it's a work that will bring so much blessings afterwards, you know. Once you let loose of expectations, of the hope that you had for that relationship. And I was a bit like, you know, I had hope, and that's why I stayed. I had hope, and I said, I've invested so much in this person.
Exactly.
I don't want to let that go. You know, like, I've invested too much.
You've given yourself, you've given your time, everything, and you're like, you know,
why would I let that go? You know, and it's a bit silly to say that, because it's a bit like prideful. It's a bit of pride, you know, like, I've done all that. Why would I let that go? But you can see that the person is obviously not good for you. You also mentioned that, you know, as a child you were quite aggressive. This is the impact that, you know, domestic abuse can have on a child. You know, the child becomes quite aggressive. My son was quite aggressive in class, in school as well, and I didn't shout at him for that. I understood that, hold on, this is what he's seeing at home, this is what he's witnessing, and this is how he's able to, he's not able, but this is how he's expressing him. You know, it's kind of a, what would you say, a cry for help.
Yes.
It's a cry for help as well. The child is crying for help.
You're crying for attention.
Attention,
you're an attention seeker, because you want people to realize your pain and what's happening in you. And I would like to add something. You mentioned earlier about some abusers using the child against the other parent. So I will call it brainwash.
Yes.
You know, because that's something that was happening to me, but I didn't realize when I was older, and I will meet my mom's cousins, auntie, they will tell me, oh, when you were you were a child, you were calling us name, you were racist. And I didn't know that. I may have forgotten, but apparently my father was telling me things towards my mother and black people, you know, like to call them names, monkeys and this, and I didn't realize. So to use me as well is to abuse me, to abuse my family, my mother through me.
Yeah.
Then the parents and everyone else, the adults, will see me as a bad child or racist and all that, when you're actually being abused because you're being used to hurt others, you know. So it's very tricky, and it's a mind game that is very, very subtle. And when you grow up like this, I ended up being a bit racist myself when I was growing up towards everyone, because I felt like I'm not fitting anywhere. Where when I go one side, they will say, "Oh, you're from there." When you go another side, so then you're like, "Where am I fitting in?" You know?
Yeah, no, that's very true. Do you have any more questions for Elo Adassa before we conclude this live? So I repeat again, the topic this evening is, why do victims of domestic abuse choose to stay? I say choose, and I actually picked that word quite carefully, because at times it's not really a choice. It's beyond a choice. It's kind of, you know, it's kind of, I haven't got the choice really. I'm staying because, and I'm not even, it's not, sometimes it's not even love. It's like one of the ladies put in the chat, it's just fear. I'm just here because I'm fearful of what you can do to me, what you can do to the children. And one of our sisters here is watching, Miriam. She told me a story that happened in Canada, where a lady was domestically abused, and then she chose to leave her partner, and the partner, obviously they were not together anymore, and the partner ended up killing her. And I'm not sure if you can correct me, Miriam, he killed also the children. So this is the sort of threats that you get, and at times we take it very lightly, but we from the outside we take it lightly, but the person who is inside that relationship knows that this person is capable.
Yes.
And and even if I don't know whether or not that person is capable, I don't want to see whether he's going to do it or not. Do you see what I mean? Like, I don't want to push it to that extent where I'm having a gun head to my head or a knife on my throat, you know. I don't want to push it to that way. So I want to make sure that I stay there so that it doesn't end up doing this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't have the choice, because, like you said, if you're in another country that is not yours, you don't have your passport, you don't have money, you have nothing. So even if you want to leave, where are you going to go? You cannot leave. You know. So sometimes it's really that you can't leave. Some people are slaves in their household. Yes. They're really, they can't do anything. Especially it's cultural. There are some cultures where, you know, like I will use Muslim and all, but there are some countries where really you live, that's it, they kill you, you know, and you don't have your paper, you have nothing, you belong to them. So you really, unless someone come and rescue you, or something happens, or you plan it ahead, and you know, and then you can leave the country, change your identity. There's no other way for you to live. And some people even kill themselves because there's no other way for them to live. It's just death. That's unfortunately.
Thank you. Plus Hoyam is asking a question. Let me go down. What are the signs to recognize abuser when you enter a new relationship? I'll let you go first, or do you want me to?
The thing is, it's so subtle, and I will say, because sometimes someone is so nice, so sweet, you know, you wouldn't even think that they are capable of any violence, but there's always a red flag. If you see that one time you have an argument and the person starts to be too heated up for no reason, you know, it's normal to argue. You know, it's a normal human relationship behavior with your children, your siblings, your friends. But if he starts with name callings, or the person start breaking things, you know, a little sign of violence, or even sometimes it's not even violence, but if the person always puts you down, always, but look at you, you're not even cute, or you're too fat, and they use it as a joke, this is still abuse. You know, where do you think you're going? You know, sometimes it's just the things that they say, and if you think that, when he says that it doesn't make you feel good, then that's abuse. As soon as you realize that the person is doing something or saying something that makes you feel uncomfortable, or that makes you feel unloved or weird, then that's when you leave. There's no point to stay. It's never gonna get better unless the person comes and apologizes, or you know what, I know I said that was wrong, I'm really sorry, I won't do it again. Otherwise, because it can happen, sometimes we say things we don't mean, but once, maximum twice, but the third time, that's it.
You mean it, now you mean it.
That's it,
so. I think, narcissists are very good at apologizing as well. And, they would apologize, they will cry even. But you have to be, I feel like you have to be very observant. Again, trust your guts. If you think that this person is trying to isolate you, they want you for themselves. Though, the thing is, many of the perverts, narcissistic perverts, they do these things, and we find it very, oh, he's so nice, he wants me for himself. Oh, it's so nice, it's just me and him, he wants us to... No, because he's working the field to make sure that now you're isolated, now I have you to myself, and now I can stamp on you the way I want to stamp on you. So you have to be very careful when someone tries to isolate you, and then it's always a thing where, oh, I don't like your friend, I don't want her to come out, I don't want her to come to the house, unless your friend has done something very, she's come and stood in his face and cussed him and all that. I would understand. But for no reason, your friend comes and visits you, they haven't even talked, and he tells you, I don't like your friend. And then the thing is, he creates in the victim, he creates something, and then now you start looking at your friend a bit weirdly, and your friend starts calling you, oh, can I come to your house? No. You always find excuses. You know now that he's worked his way to cut you from the people who actually are your support, that when he starts his wahala, those are the people who will come and rescue you. But now, because he's cut you from all of them, you are not left alone. So it's very subtle the way they start, because they start with giving you so much love, so much attention, and it always look like what you've always wanted. It always look like, wow, this is what I've always wanted. And one thing as well I would say to look out for is someone who's asking you for your whole, to tell them that your whole life, and they don't tell you about their own lives.
Yes.
Because they use your life as ammunition when now, because you fight an argument like you said, but now they're using your past as a weapon towards you. Oh, you'll be like your mom. Your mom was abused. I will take your case, but your mom was abused anyway. Blah blah. So they're using now what you've told them against you, and that's not love. When someone uses your past or something against you, it's no love. So you have to really reflect on. Hold on, we had an argument. Arguments don't have to be nasty. Arguments is me and you not agreeing on something, but you don't have to be nasty towards me.
Exactly.
You don't have to make me feel like I don't like I'm so stupid that I have no say. So if you feel like you're having an argument with your partner, and your partner is bringing out things that kind of are hurtful to you, but you confided in them, these are red flags. Run for the hills. If you feel that your partner is really trying to cut people off your life, run for the hills. Because these are signs that are obvious and not obvious at the same time. But you have to know that being loved is not being separated from everyone else.
Or imprisoned, because if it doesn't allow you to have an activity, to go out, to express yourself, it's not, if a man starts behaving as your father, you cannot go out, you cannot wear that. That's not normal. That's abuse. As long as you're not disrespectful in the way you dress up, if someone says, oh, I don't want you to wear that, or you look like a whore, I'm sorry. This is abuse. The guy is going to control you. So those are red flags that while you can, bye-bye.
Bye. So it's one thing to say, babe, that skirt is a bit too short. That there's a way of saying something, but no, you look like this, you look like that, because narcissists, they work on your psychology before they do anything. Someone will not come and straight away, there are people like this, but mostly they will not come straight away and start beating you. They would have worked on your mind, they would have worked on your psychology to make you believe that you without them you're nothing, they are everything to you. You are this, you are that they, like I said earlier, as if they are doing you a favor. that them being with you is a favor to your life, you know, and that's how they make you feel. So that when you think that someone is doing you a favor, you then tolerate everything they will do. So I'm basically, oh, I'm so ugly, I'm so this, I'm so that. This is what I was put through in my past relationship, that I'm so undeserving of love, and then there's this guy who actually loves me. Why would I go somewhere else?
You think no one else will love
Exactly.
you like him, so you're holding on to that love, and no matter how they treat you, you're just
exactly
there.
And you find them excuses, and then you find them excuses, you keep finding them excuses because they make you think that, okay, if I go, you're nothing without me. You have already children. Who's gonna want you with your children? You know, all of that. Look at you. Who's gonna want you with your belly? You can't even do this. You can't even do that. You know, all of this is worked on your mental. You know, on your mental, and then comes the physical abuse. Then comes of abuse on top of that, because there's never only just one. There's always a couple of them in domestic abuse relationship. There's always one or two, and sometimes, like, I've been through at least 5 at you know, some at once, some, you know, but I've been at least through 5. Some go through 2, some go through 3. It's just like this. They never stop at just working on your mental. They work on quite a few things to make sure that they have you in prison, like you say. I like that word. It's kind of in prison. Sometimes it's not a physical prison. It's not like a physical prison as in the house. It's a mental prison that you're locked in, and you can't see the exit. And because you have been cut from your support, the exit for you is nowhere. Because I can't pick up my phone and call Vanessa, because I've already told Vanessa that I don't want to hang out with her anymore. That it's me and my man,
so you feel embarrassed.
Exactly. So you're embarrassed. So you're not going to reach out for the phone to call her, because you haven't spoken to her for 3 months, because your man said that, oh, I don't like her. So all of that also doesn't help a victim from, you know, stepping out and moving on. We've come to the end of our live. If you have any other question, please drop them in the chat. But I'd like you, Elodie, to give us, you know, your final word on the topic, or anything you think is relevant to this topic.
Yeah, so while you were sharing that just now, I just wanted to say that domestic violence is not just someone beating you up. You know, like she said, there's different type of abuse, and there are some people, it's not just men, but there are some people that will never beat you up, they will never hurt you physically, but emotionally, mentally. You know, someone that doesn't want you to work and say, oh no, let me provide. It's already an abuse, unless you come to an agreement and all that. But if you really want to work and they don't want you to work, and they say no and they get annoyed, that's abuse, because they're depriving you from your financial freedom. You know, so you're depending on them financially, and that's why sometimes people cannot leave, because if they leave, they have nothing. Some people, they stayed in relationship for 20 years, they were never beaten up, but they never worked, they were never allowed to work, they don't have friends. So if they leave, they never went to school, or they never studied, so they think they cannot do anything. They think, I don't know how to do anything, because I never had the opportunity. When I want to study, my husband didn't want to. You know, when I wanted to work, he said no, so he will use it as, oh no, but let me take care of you. But at the end, it's not really for that, it's to manipulate you and control you. So yes, but there's always a way out, and there's always hope to be healed. And healing is a process, it takes time, so just go along the process.
And it's not a straight line. I like that. It's a journey, it takes time, and it's not a straight line. Healing, 1 minute you feel strong, the next minute you're crumbling, crying your eyes out like, you know, like a baby, and the next minute you feel strong. So it's not a straight line. And be gentle. I like to always say this, you know, be gentle with yourself on your journey, because if you're not gentle with yourself, you just go back to that place of you know, we go from being a victim to being a survivor, and you don't want to remain a victim. You want to be a survivor. You want to be called a survivor, and the survivor mentality keeps going, despite the highs and the lows. You keep going, and that's my encouragement for anyone out there, to keep going, keep pushing, keep pressing, because there is much better than anything you've been through. There is much better on the other side of your healing. There is so much better. So Elo Adassa, as I said, you know, she's she's released a single, which is called Party Jesus Style. We've got the t-shirt here. Please go and follow her. I will put her details. Once I've saved the video, I'll put her details. But it's called Party Jesus Style, which is the song is so encouraging. Definitely something you want to play in the morning. Put it on your playlist and do you know, dance, just dance your problems away. I was wondering, and I know it's a bit on the spot, can you just give us the party? Okay, she's gonna sing a little bit for us. Stay here.
So I will say this part that say the first verse. Nothing's gonna put you down. Don't let nothing put you down. No, no, no. For Jesus is by your side. Sorry, I'm not prepared.
That's your song. Okay, we're gonna. Okay, do the chorus.
We're gonna. Sorry, I'm mixing everything. We're gonna party, party, party every day. Jesus style. The joy of the Lord is our strength. We're gonna party, party, party all the way. Jesus style. The joy of the Lord is our strength. Nothing's gonna put you down. No, no, no. For Jesus is by your side. That's it.
Thank you so much. Please put some clapping hands in the chat. This was
so yeah,
good.
Follow me on Elo Adassa. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Elo Adassa, and listen to my song.
I'll put all your credentials underneath there. Yes. So thank you so much, so much for everyone who has been following here and there, or who has stayed throughout the whole hour. It's important for us to have these kind of discussions because it's so easy for us to judge when someone you know, chooses to stay in an abusive relationship. When you're on the outside, it's always a case of, oh, she should have gone, she should have stayed, she should have done this. We have so many should have in our mouths and in our thoughts that at times even the victim ends up feeling quite rubbish about themselves. So it's not an easy as easy as we think it should be. So we ought to have grace, extend grace to victims, and be their support system. You know, if you know anyone who's going through it, at times, you, like Elodie said, is that you may not be the right person to be able to help them, but you can direct them. That's why, you know, this month of October, I'm trying to educate, you know, to educate obviously my followers and those who are resharing, in knowing that obviously there are places where you can refer people, where there's professionals who will be able to help them. And then obviously it's not because you leave them in the hands of professionals that you're not able to still walk that journey with them. But you know, sometimes don't carry the weight of something that you have no knowledge of, sometimes, because you will feel like it is a weight on your shoulder because you have no knowledge of it. So thank you so much obviously for being a support. And I know this is a bit on the spot, but I didn't say, because at the end of my life I always ask the guests to say a quick prayer for the ones who are abused. So if you can pray for us, for the ones who are you know, wanting to leave, and also for the ones who decided to stay despite obviously knowing where they are at. If you can just, it's a quick, you know. Okay, thank you.
Lord, I thank you for your grace, and I thank you for allowing us to share about this sensitive subject. I want to pray for everyone that have heard our stories and have shared with us, and all the one that will listen to this live as well later on. For those, Lord, that are being abused right now and are still in this abusive relationship, first of all, I want to pray for you to protect them and to give them the strength, Lord, to leave. I pray as well that you will touch the abusers so that they will stop what they are doing right now, in the mighty name of Jesus. I want to pray as well for you to give the courage for people to leave and to be restored, healed. Bring the right people that will help them. Bring divine connections so that they will have the way out that they need. I want to pray for those that have been abused, those that didn't realize they were abused, but now maybe their eyes are opening and they're like, hold on, I was through abuse, but I didn't realize. Those that have left, I pray that you will keep on healing them, restoring them, that themselves, they will not be bitter, that they will be able to forgive, that they will be free from what has happened to them, that will even forgive and love and bless the people that abuse them, even if it's from far away, Lord. I pray for total healing, even amongst ourselves, Lord. I pray that you heal us, you restore us, you heal the families as well, and you help people to encourage and understand each other, Lord, and not being judged or judge anyone else, Lord. Thank you for your grace and thank you for your love. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Elo Adassa. Thank you so much. So thank you so much. This was very interesting, very, very interesting. Again, you know, this is PKM. That's my initials. That's why PKM, if anyone asks, PKM, that's my initials. This evening's topic was why do victims stay? And my guest this evening was the lovely Elo Adassa.
Thank you so much.
Please share, reshare the live. I'm going to put all her credentials on the description. And it will be great for many people to take part in this conversation and making sure that everybody is educated so that no one feels judged or pressured in, you know, in the current relationship and where they are at today. Thank you so much for following us. Stay blessed. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.